Before we start, let me just let everybody know the candidates received the format and the guideline of what we're doing tonight, and we did have a meeting in the back, so the candidates are aware of what we're doing and the time limits on the questions. Mr. Paul Deese, and I need the candidates to see, may need to for Mr. Chastain to move over here, Mr. Deese, if possible. But Mr. Paul Deese will be our timekeeper. Can everybody see the red? Okay, does that do I? All right, what about the yellow? That's the stop. Is that, or you need the other one? Can candidates, can you see that? Good with that. Okay. All right.
As long as you see the yellow.
Okay.
Read it.
Every time I ask a question, I will let you know your time you have, and Mr. Deese will keep time, and again, let you know when you have 30 seconds. And to stop, we have probate candidate Scott Chastain, Susan Keener, Andrew Lowman, and Josh Teague. Want to welcome them. We'll be on our way with opening statements, but I just wanted to let you know we are filling a position in Gilmer County, and the importance of this is the current probate court judge, Anita Mullins, started working in the office of probate court in 1993 and has been the Gilmer County probate judge since 2003. This is an important decision here because maybe a long time before you see a different person as your probate judge. So that being said, the candidates all drew a number, and we're going to start with 1 minute opening statements. 1 minute opening statements, and we're starting with Ms. Susan Keener. 1 minute to open. That mic, that orange mic is live at all times, and please pass that between you candidates. 1 minute to open, Ms. Keener.
Hi, and I'd like to welcome everybody here. I'd like to start with my qualifications. I have been a resident of Gilmer County for my whole life, basically. I have a criminal justice degree. I have over 15 years in the legal field. My experience in the legal field covers both civil and criminal. I've been with the district attorney's office for 8.5 years. I'm currently on a leave of absence so that I can campaign, so until after the election process. My parents are Gaines and Dixie Tyler. My father, Gaines, was an attorney in Gilmer County for almost 20 years up until his death. My mother, Dixie, works for the Gilmer County Road Department as their administrative assistant. I have 2 children. 2 grown children. I have 3 grandchildren. Thank you.
Okay, next, Mr. Chastain. 1 minute.
I'm Scott Chastain. You'll have to look over my voice tonight, but I'm Scott Chastain. I'm seeking the office of probate judge here in Gilmer County. The good Lord lets me live till September. I'll be 45 years old, resident of this county my entire life. My wife is also a lifelong resident, Tanya Chastain. We have 3 daughters. I'm currently serving as your county surveyor right now. We'll finish that term at the end of the year. I am a ordained Baptist minister, currently pastoring B-Ring Baptist Church on 382. I think my qualifications are the fact that I've dealt with the public, I've dealt with staff, I've done budgeting, I ran a business. I have certain things that I could bring to this office that I think would be a benefit to you, and I would love to serve you for the next 4 years as your probate judge, and I ask for your vote on May the 24th. Thank you.
Okay, next, Mr. Josh Teague. 1 minute.
First, let me say thank you for letting us speak to y'all tonight. My name is Josh Teague. I'm a local attorney here in town. I've been in private practice for 5 years with John Mahan. Before going into private practice, I completed internships with the United States Attorney's Office and 2 Superior Court judges. I am the choir director and the youth Sunday school teacher for Mount Vernon Baptist Church. And I'm running for this position because I believe that when a judge has the authority to put you in jail, take away your constitutional God-given rights, or put you in a nursing home or mental institution against your will, or declare your will invalid and give away all your property to someone you never intended, that experience matters. And I will use my experience to serve the people of Gilmer County to make sure you all have the most fair and the most efficient court possible. And I will treat everyone, regardless of who they are or where they're from, the same. Thank you. Ask for your vote on May 24th.
Okay, all candidates, this question, we're going to go from left to right. And I'm sorry, Mr. Lowman. My sincere apology, Mr. Lowman. I apologize. I apologize. Mr. Lowman, please.
All right. Thank you all for having me here tonight. My name is Andrew Lowman. I am also a lifelong resident of Gilmer County. I'm a practicing attorney in the area, going on 5 years. I've been with an attorney, Chuck McCurdy, for almost 15 years now. Probate law is an area of the law that I've focused in for a considerable time period now. I currently serve as the county administrator for the Pickens County Probate Court. I've served in many court-appointed roles in the probate courts in our circuit, and I believe it's an area of the law where experience is key. And I believe that the experience that I have obtained over the years and the representation of the many clients throughout the probate courts in the North Georgia area that I have been fortunate enough to be able to do over the years puts me in the position to where I would be able to hit the ground running with the office and put the office in the position that the citizens of Gilmer County deserve. And I ask for your vote on May 24th.
Thank you, candidates. Now, I want to go from left to right, 30 seconds on the clock. In Gilmer County, just so everybody knows, there's no Democrats that have qualified to run for the office. And in Gilmer County, traditionally votes about 76% Republican. That being said, all of you have qualified on the Republican ballot to run for this office. So 30 seconds, there's really no way to just left to right. Give us 30 seconds of how long you've been a Republican, what does it mean to be a Republican, and why you're a Republican. 30 seconds for each one of you, if you would, please.
Thank you, Brian. Registered to vote. When I first registered to vote, I was registered as a Republican. I voted Republican every time that I went to the polls. The Republican Party to me is the conservative party. They believe in the right to life, Second Amendment, all the things that I believe in and stand for. They represent my beliefs more closely than any other party, and that's why I'm voting. That's why I'm running as a Republican and vote as a Republican.
Ms. Keener?
I too have always been registered as Republican, and I am also conservative. I believe in the Constitution. I believe in our rights, and I will continue to vote as a Republican.
Mr. Lowman?
Thank you, Brian. I would like to say that I've voted as a Republican my entire life, but I can't honestly say that. But I believe over the past 8 to 10 years, when I really started evaluating what was important to me as far as my morals, my family values, and what was important to me as far as my faith, I started realizing that I started associating with the Republican Party much, much more. And I would say that I voted as a Republican consistently over the past 8 years. But before that time, I traditionally tried to vote for the party that I believed was the best. But like I say, since that time period, I've started to determine what's most important to me with every aspect of my life, and that's why I vote as a Republican.
Mr. Teague?
Thank you, Brian. I vote as a Republican because I believe in limited government, I believe in the Constitution, and I believe the government's too large and has been for quite some time. I can't say I have never voted outside of the Republican Party, but in the last 8 to 10 years, I have voted exclusively Republican. Thank you.
Thank you. All candidates understand they have 2 minutes to answer each question, and they will not all be getting the same question, but the candidates, you do understand you're able to request to respond to a question, right? Okay. First question, Mr. Josh Teague. Vital records right now. What, and counting 3 parts, 2 minutes here, what are the vital records that were removed from probate, and how would you go attempt to get the vital records back into probate, and is that really necessary?
Thank you, Brian. That's a great question. Traditionally, our probate court had three types of vital records, which was the marriage certificates, birth certificates, and death certificates. And last year, we lost the birth and death certificates, and they were moved into another office. And actually, when that happened, I was in contact with 4 of our elected officials and with the state registrar, Ms. Donna Moore, who made that decision. And we were all coordinating together trying to prevent that from happening. But the decision had already been made, and they're gone. If I'm elected, I will work to bring those back. I don't think that is necessarily permanent. I think it would be a good thing to have a centralized location where all the vital records are stored. The Department of Health, which is where those records are right now, it keeps different office hours. They close earlier, they close for lunch, and they have different holidays than the probate court. So it does make it more difficult for people to go. People work 9 to 5, 8 to 5, sometimes earlier, sometimes later. So I think it's important that when someone needs that birth certificate, that death certificate, for whatever reason, that it's as easy as possible for them to access that record. And it's just another example of the state coming in and grabbing away local community power from a community office. That's been a county office that has maintained that up until last year consistently, and the state come in and took that away. So I believe it should be moved back to the probate court. It should be something that is very friendly for the community and a very easy process if you want to go get it. You shouldn't have to go out of your way. Most people have to go at the end of the day or at lunch. They shouldn't have to try to work their way around the office's hours to come in and get that. Thank you.
Would any of the candidates like to respond to that question? Okay. Currently, Mr. Scott Chastain, currently it is the probate judge's decision whether they will officiate marriages. You're able to make that decision yourself. On June 26th of this past year, the United States Supreme Court legalized same-sex marriage. 1, if probate judge, will you officiate weddings? And if so, will you do same-sex marriage weddings?
Brian, I fully believe...
2 minutes.
It ain't going to take that long. I fully believe that a marriage God intended to be between a man and a woman, and I stand for that. I believe that. I will not be doing any weddings, period, if elected as probate judge from that office. Judge Mullins stopped those about 3 years ago. She's not done any since. If I'm elected, I do not intend to start that back at all.
Mr. Lowman, I'd like to give you 2 minutes if you want 2 minutes. I'd like to ask actually you that same question. Would you perform marriages? And again, the probate judge does not have to, but you're able to perform marriages. If so, as probate judge, would you also do same-sex marriages?
Brian, given the situation and given the circumstances that have arisen with the most recent Supreme Court decisions that you have indicated, although I wholeheartedly agree that a marriage is between a man and a woman, I always have and I always will. At the same time, I can honestly sit here and tell you that I'm going to turn anyone away. If someone comes in that office and wants to use the office or use the services that court provides, no matter what they're trying to do, no matter how broad the spectrum, no matter what the issue is, if I can in any way help that person, I'm going to help that person. That's why I want to do this job. I want to help people, and that's been my driving force, the driving reason that I decided to do this job when I decided to announce my candidacy. And if I can help an individual, then that's what I will be doing.
We have plenty of time. Mr. Teague, answer that, but let me ask you again because I want to make sure the question's clear. Probate judge is not required to. You're not required. So, 1, would you, as probate judge, perform marriages, and if so, all marriages?
Thank you, Brian. I would not perform marriages. I would keep in place the policy that Judge Mullins has currently, which is to perform none. I will say that I believe if a probate judge were elected to perform any, they would have to perform all, or the county would be facing a very large lawsuit. I'll also say, going into this office, you have to realize that that's a possibility. And if you're going to perform some, you need to be willing to perform all. If not, you need to keep in place the policy Judge Mullins has right now. Also, you're going to have to sign marriage certificates for everyone that comes in, whether they're gay, whether they're divorced, whether they're anything else. And I think that's something you have to go in with your eyes open and realize that regardless of your personal beliefs, regardless of what mine are or anyone else's, that's your responsibility and duty in that job. And if you decide not to do that, then the county would be facing a very large lawsuit. Thank you.
Ms. Keener, let me give you the same opportunity like everybody else. I want to leave you out. Again, do you need me to repeat the question?
No, I think I've got it.
Okay.
Right now, since no weddings are being performed, I probably would not start that back, but I say probably, because there may come a point when it does bring in additional revenue that might be the case. And should that be the case, if you perform one marriage, whether it's heterosexual, if it's heterosexual, you're going to have to perform, the gay marriages too. It's not pick and choose. You start one, it's a precedent you set. You have to continue. I have really no problem with that. I have my personal views, and they're just that. They're my own personal views. Thank you.
You can respond. 1 minute.
On the situation we currently have in our country now is because we had 5 people make a decision, or 5 vote for the decision that we're faced with today without any of our input. That being said, the license is law. They will have to be issued. I don't necessarily agree with it, but that is the law, and I would have to issue those licenses. But however, I do not have to stand in front of 2 people and pronounce them man and wife, or man and man, or whatever you want to call it. I don't have to do that, and I would not do that.
Let me say what you, Mr. Chastain. Many feel the current probate judge is a full-time probate judge. Many feel it's a full-time position, and the citizens want their probate judge to be full-time. Not required, but many feel that. Okay, I want to be clear. Not required. You currently own a business. Okay. Will you be a full-time probate judge for the citizens of Gilmer County? And if so, what's your plans to do with your business?
Brian, I'm glad you asked that, because that's a lot of the questions. I get a lot of those questions in the community. And I do currently own a business, a surveying business, located out on Yukon Road. And my intentions, if elected, I have a registered land surveyor that works for me and with me. He would then run the day-to-day operations of that surveying business. And I have said this from the beginning, I would be 100% committed, full-time judge to this county. Although it may not be required, I think it should be expected of the taxpayers of this county. If you go up there, you should be able to find the judge somewhere, not running his business or not off doing something else, but being there for you when you need him the most. Deaths don't wait, and you can't afford to wait for somebody to get to the office to do something for you. So my commitment to you is to be a full-time judge, no other outside distraction that I would have as far as business goes. And I pledge that. I'm not afraid to promise you that tonight, that I am going to be a 100% committed, full-time probate judge here in Gilmer County.
Mr. Lowman, I want to go to you, and I want to give you more than just a minute for a response, because that is a question a lot of people want to hear. Would you be a full-time probate judge? If not, how would you effectively operate the office?
Thank you, Brian. I absolutely will be a full-time judge. And I think there's a little bit of a misconception here that operating as a full-time judge requires you to drop everything else in your life. If that were the case, I would stop exercising, I would stop going to church and everything else. Being a full-time judge means you're full-time committed to that office, meaning you're operating that office like it needs to be. You're putting in the time and the effort to make sure that you operate that office in the way that the citizens of the county expect, and you're also operating the office in the manner so that you can get everything that you need to accomplish. I don't think that means that you won't do anything else in your life, period. I absolutely will be a 100% full-time committed judge, and I'm not saying that I won't ever do anything else And I'm not saying that I will do anything else, but what I am saying is I will wholeheartedly be committed to that job. The job will be my top priority. If I'm able to do something else, I'd like to, because I feel like I'm a motivated individual. I feel like a lot of the individuals here tonight are motivated individuals. I don't like to be in a situation where I'm twiddling my thumbs, or I don't necessarily, I feel like I'm looking for something else. If I have the ability to do more than one thing at a time, I think I should be doing it. But the most important thing I think to point out is that the office of Gilmer County Probate Judge will be my top priority.
One more minute. I want to follow that up. Will you continue to practice as an attorney and continue to take cases?
Well, and that's an interesting question that I get a lot of times, and I don't want to straddle the fence on it, but honestly, I think it's a question that I won't know how to answer until I'm in the office. Because if I get into the office, and I've been around probate courts for a long time now. I know what it takes to run these offices. I've been doing probate law for a long time. I'm in a probate court every other day in our circuit, just about. Don't quote me on that, but just about I am. I know what it takes to run these offices. I know the time, the commitment that it takes to be able to do this job in the right way. And if I'm in that position and I feel like I'm running the office not only in the way that the county expects, but in the way that I expect, if I have the opportunity to conduct to take a case, then I may very well do it. I'm not going to take anything that conflicts with that job or our circuit or puts our circuit in a position to where it creates additional expense because I'm doing so. But if it's something that I can do to help another individual out, because that's why I practice law, that's why I went to law school, was to be able to help others. And if I'm in a position where I can do that, in addition to run the probate office like it needs to be running, then I would like to do it.
Mr. Teague, let's stay with that. Will you be a full-time probate judge? Will you continue to practice law in a private manner and continue to take cases?
Thank you, Brian. Yes, I'll be a full-time probate judge. I believe the office of Gilmer County Probate Judge is a full-time position. The county pays for a full-time position. The taxpayers fund that position, and I believe they deserve someone who will be there full-time. Now, I am a private attorney. When I anticipated running for this office, we hired another attorney in our office last January who's come in. She'll be taking over my caseload. I may occasionally answer a phone call or send a letter or do something after hours if I can help out at the firm. My name will still be associated with it, but I will no longer be involved in the day-to-day practice of law if I'm elected as a probate judge. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Keener, Susan Keener, please. You work in the district attorney's office. Have you looked to see if any cases you have worked on in the past year or that would cause any conflict as being probate judge, any kind of conflict that would arise out of the DA's office?
I don't see that as happening. My position was administrative, and our offices prosecute cases in the probate court, but as far as I don't believe that would be a conflict, but as of now, I've taken that leave of absence to campaign, and that's if there would be any appearance of any impropriety. So, but no, I don't believe that I'll have any conflict.
Okay, let's stay with you just for a minute here. What are we have the administrative side of the probate judge's office, but actually this is a position of a judge, so you hear cases. What kind of cases do probate judges hear?
Probate judges hear misdemeanor traffic offenses. There are citations from DNR, misdemeanor cases that they hear. They're DUI cases.
So those are several of the cases, but you do hear cases?
Yes.
Okay. Let me follow that up. Mr. Teague, how would you, if you are handling DUI cases and traffic cases, don't you take a lot of those in your private practice now? Would you not see several cases come before you'd have to recuse yourself from? Do you see that possibility?
Well, thank you for asking that question. I wanted to address this. That's a question I've had before, the potential conflicts. And I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding of what conflicts are for a judge. Anyone who's elected as a probate judge, whether it was one of the four of us or someone else, comes into the office with potential conflicts. Conflicts is a family member who comes in front of you, someone who's a member of your church, a member of a civic club that you're a member at. It could be someone who was a customer at your business. Anyone who would create the appearance of an impropriety if you were to make a decision on their case. So I don't think that anyone up here has any kind of special holdover conflicts. Anyone who takes that position will have the possibility of someone coming in front of them that it would look like they were being biased if they were to hear their case. So no, I don't think so. Thank you, Brian.
Mr. Lowman, but isn't it true that you're not to practice law in a court which you serve? So if you took cases, would you be able to do them in Gilmer? How would that happen if you took any cases?
Brian, part of the reason, one of my other answers a second ago, that I wanted to make sure and make clear that I would take cases if I take cases, and I think that's a big if at this point, because once again, I don't know what the situation is going to hold. What I do know is that I'm going to put everything that I have towards the office, and I'm not going to take anything that conflicts with that office. So if there's a situation like you're discussing where I have probate clients, or probate clients are coming to me asking me for representation, no, I will no longer be able to conduct those types of cases. The only thing really that I can see myself doing is things similar to like Mr. Teague discussed a second ago. I like to talk to people. I like to talk to people about the law. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to be arguing a DUI hearing in my own court, or I'm going to be up in Superior Court one day or coming back in my court the next day. I don't think I should. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair to the other local attorneys in this area for them to be in an adversarial position with me one day and then the next day have to answer to me in that court. And so no, I will not be putting myself in any position where there's a potential conflict for the cases that I potentially maybe take.
Mr. Teague, Mr. Lowman did, you don't have to, but he did mention your name, so if you would like a minute to respond to that, or...
I think he was just saying that I was right about something. He was agreeing with me. I appreciate that. Yeah.
The rule is if they just bring your name up, you get the opportunity. So if you got a chance to say you were right, we'll go with that. Let's move over here, Mr. Chastain. Mr. Chastain, the three other candidates have two attorneys and someone in the district attorney, and you're not in the legal profession at this time. How can you tell the citizens that you would be able to do the job as a judge, know what's going on in there, and how would you do that?
Good question, and I'm glad you asked me that. In a minute, I'd like to go back to the conflict if we could, because I wanted to say you didn't ask me that question. I've got something I'd like to say about the conflict. But anyway, on this question about being able to tell y'all my qualifications to do the job of a judge, none of us have ever been a probate judge. We have two attorneys. I respect them for their education and their drive to do so, but they've not been a judge. I've not been a judge. Susan has not been a judge. Whoever's elected will have to go to school to learn how to be a judge. There's certain things that you'll have to be educated on, and then there's a 40-hour week of classes, and there's 12 hours every year of continued education. I don't feel that I'm at a disadvantage because I don't have a law degree or been in a law firm or district attorney's office. I actually feel like I'm at an advantage because now we get to the conflicts. I don't have those. Mr. Teague mentioned that there would be some conflicts with family, which I agree with him. There will be. All of us will get into those. But as far as anything else, I don't see a conflict with that. I've been the county surveyor for 8 years. And prior to that, the 4 years prior to that, I was involved with that county surveying position. Never had a case come before a probate judge that was a conflict for us to deal with in that. So I don't see my business being a conflict. If family comes through, we'll all have to recuse ourselves from that. But out of the three, I think, or out of the four, I think I'm the one that has the least amount of conflicts of any of these that's beside me here. I think that when you start off fresh, January 1, and the education comes to be a judge, we're all going to learn quite a bit. Nobody's going to know day one, and there will be some learning on the job as you go.
You said you wanted to respond to something because I did not ask you, and you did not ask to respond. Do you want to respond to something?
I did. The conflict is what I was mentioning. I feel like that I'm the less of.
Okay, and you responded to that. Okay. Okay, Mr. Teague, you're welcome. 1 minute to respond.
Thank you. And obviously, no one up here has been a probate judge before, but I've been to school for 7 years, three exclusively focused on the law. I have worked in 2 judges' chambers, so I do have experience making recommendations to judges on how they should rule on issues, seeing the process that they go through. I have a lot of experience with the law. Outside of my 5 years in private practice and those 2 judges' chambers, I also worked with the U.S. Attorney's Office. So I think whether you're looking at someone who's going to come in with that type of experience, or you're going to have someone coming in with a 40-hour class, that's a big difference. I studied longer than that for the bar exam. I studied 3 months, 6 days a week. Before that, I was in school for 3 years. I've practiced for 5 years. So while no one up here may have had experience as a judge, I think you need to look at the experience of the candidates in the legal profession when you make your vote. Thank you.
Mr. Lowman, I want to go to you. We've been talking about judge, and we've been putting a lot of emphasis on being the probate judge. But there's a whole other side we haven't discussed, the services to the citizens. Probate office issues gun permits and so on and so forth. There's an administrative side to that office. Have you had an opportunity to look at the Gilmer probate office in its current state? Do you have any changes that you're thinking about if becoming probate judge, as far as not change in administration, I wouldn't put that, but as far as the administration itself and how that office operates?
There are some things that I would like to see improved upon in that office. I believe we could have some modernization occur in that office. I would like to see some things occur, and in the past couple of years, I've been fortunate enough to see a lot of good working probate courts around our area. And I'm not saying that ours is not a good working probate court, but I've seen a lot of things that some of the other probate courts do. A lot of the other ones around are a lot more modern. A lot of the other ones around have much more of an open door policy. Things in our office has gotten a lot better, and our probate court have gotten a lot better, but we have had some times where there's been some difficulty to accomplish things in the manner that we need to accomplish. And so, like most judge candidates, I think the biggest things, honestly, that I would like to see changed or immediately attacked would be efficiency, the modernization, and the open door accessibility. I think people need more accessibility to that court.
Ms. Keener, the same question to you. Mr. Lowman's talking about modernization, and what have you seen in the current probate judge's office as far as administrative wise, things you may change, some things that you think that you would like to do as the probate judge in that office itself?
Well, what I would like to do is to make it more public service oriented and customer friendly. So when you actually go to the probate court, you have someone that's sitting there ready to help you, as opposed to ring a bell and waiting for them to come and take care of you. So, or answer your question. So they need to be, you need to have people there who make you feel like they're going to be helpful when you walk into the probate court. I also want to have a resource center available with information so that if people need to hire an attorney that deal with wills and probate, since we can't practice law, I can't give advice, but I can offer a resource center, information center with cards, with community organization, pamphlets, brochures, rack cards that would be helpful to those who come into the court. Thank you.
Would either of the other two candidates, would you like to go ahead, Mr. Chastain? You need me to repeat the question?
If you don't mind.
We've talked about modernization. What we're doing is we're kind of switching gears from being the actual judge to the administrative side of the office. Have you looked at the office? Have you been up there and looked at some of the things going on in the current operation? And would you make changes, or how would you take over and operate that office?
Brian, I definitely would plan to make changes. I've reviewed the current budget that Judge Mullins had asked for and submitted to the county. And let me first say that I really appreciate the job that Judge Mullins has done, the service she's been to our community for the last 13 years as our judge, and even previous to that, she was a clerk. But things need to be addressed. There need to be some things that's done and changed. And Susan's mentioned a couple of things that I've been thinking about. I would love to have someone sitting at the window when you walk up. I despise ringing the bell to get help. I feel like there should be somebody sitting there to help you. I think the current staff needs to be cross-trained. I think they need to be able to answer questions in every field that we have in that office. It's my belief that we have that particular budget is probably one of the leanest budgets in our county today. Cross-training, the staff up there now needs to be trained. They're asking to be trained. They want to be trained. And I would try my best to get the training that they want or need to be able to help the citizens of this county. You deserve to be able to go in and get an answer. You deserve to be able to call and get an answer. And I think that's very important.
I don't want to leave you out, Mr. Teague. I'll give you the same opportunity. Do you need me to repeat what we're talking about here?
No, thank you. I think the administrative functions are a very important part of that court. In 2015, the court issued a little over, I believe, 200 marriage certificates and did over 1,000 gun permits. So it is a very large portion of what they do. And one big problem I think they have is that the budget is a little lean right now, and they're understaffed. If you're familiar with the court, they've went back and forth from 3 to 4 employees several times. Right now, they're staffed with 3. They definitely need another employee, at least one person up front full-time, which I think everybody's here said. I think we're all in agreement on that. Someone that's a contact person that can be there for the community, that can be the first person they see to take point and help them out and get them to the right person, if nothing else. And I agree with the modernization point. A lot of these probate courts, you can go on their website, you can print off the forms that are Georgia standard probate forms, you can take them in, have them filled out already. I don't believe that's something that our probate court has right now. The same issue when you look at cross-training. I think very recently some of the staff have started to cross-train with each other, but that is a recent development, and I think that would be a big benefit. And when you go to most other probate courts, you see that cross-training, you see someone up front at the counter on a consistent basis, and I think that would be a very large benefit to the people in the county. Thank you.
Ms. Keener, you can follow up. 1 minute.
As to the modernization, to go along with the information or the resource center, I would love to see a computer setup in there too, because these forms, most of these forms are they're online. And I want, when people come up and they need to print off the forms to probate, a will and solemn form and common form, but they can go to that website and they can print off these forms and it will be right there for them. I don't know if that will cost more money, but I do think that it would be something I'd like to do.
I want to go back to Mr. Teague for a minute, and I want to ask a question based on your answer, but I'm not quoting you here, I'm formulating a question. Considering I've sit in the budget meetings for several years, I have heard from clerk of court to basically every constitutional officer in one way or the other ask for more money, asked, say the office is underfunded, and that they need more help and they can't afford to pay. In the county, I think the county employees only received 1 pay raise in the last several years. That being said, would you go looking at the budget and try to increase the probate budget based on that? And if not, have you looked at the budget and tried to figure out how to manage that office with the current budget?
Well, I think there's 2 ways that I would approach that, Brian. First is I do think you need a slightly larger budget or to find some savings to help bring in some additional staff and pay the staff a little bit more, because that office has had an extremely high turnover rate. And if you look, most of them are leaving and going to another county job and they're just making more money in another office. They have probably the lowest pay of any county office, my understanding. So one option would be to go to the county and to try to get some more money in the budget. Second, the vital records, when we were getting birth and death certificates, that money all went to the probate court. And a lot of probate courts share that money with their employees at the end of the year. It's a bonus, or they share it through the year, and they pay out some that way. That can be in excess of $10,000 that's coming into the probate court, depending on where you're at. And I think we would definitely have more than that coming in here. But again, you would have to get that fund coming back to the court. Thank you.
Can I ask you really quick, since you brought it up, if you were able to get the vital records money back, and clarity for the audience and the voters, that does go to the probate judge, correct?
Yes, and the probate judge can choose, and depending on which office you go and look at, either the judge keeps that all for themselves or they share it with the staff.
You would be willing to, you're interested if you got that back and sharing it with the staff?
I think it's very important to have a very well-trained and well-compensated staff to have any kind of efficient or effectual office. So I believe so, yes.
I'd like to go with Mr. Chastain on this, and you're welcome to respond. Anybody else want to respond to that? Have you? Okay. Mr. Chastain, let me ask you a question here. You a minute ago brought up that you have looked at the budget, and being part as the county surveyor and seeing through the past several years the economic struggle the county is currently in. You don't want anybody to ring the bell. That's your word, sir. You don't like it when they ring the bell and nobody's there, but somebody has to pay for that person. You've looked at the budget. Do you think you would have to come to the commissioners and ask for more in the budget to increase the staff, or how would you approach that?
Well, I think ideally it would be great to be able to go to the commissioners and ask for an increase. I'd want to get in and look at each line item. I too have been in some of these meetings. Actually, I have asked for an increase in my budget for 8 years. That it's zero today, and it's always been zero, and I've not got any increase in my budget. But I have been there and heard the, well, I'm underfunded, or I got to have this, I got to have that. I believe by looking at this office, I can come to the commissioners and prove to them that we need this increase. And I'm not saying it's going to be a tremendous amount. I don't necessarily agree we need 6 or 7 employees. I think if we had 3 that were cross-trained, well-trained, and pay them good, that you could accomplish the same thing.
Anybody want to respond? Anybody? Okay. Ms. Keener, let me ask you.
I'm sorry, Brian. Yes, sir. You want to respond?
Oh, you want to respond? He wants to talk about the budget.
Okay. Ms. Keener, let me ask you a question here. In another side of this, wills. You are going to meet with families at, just at times in their life when they're just so upset and distraught, but they have to come talk to the probate judge. You can't give them advice, but you got to walk them through the forms and things of that nature, and have them show up, maybe not even have a will and not know what to do next. Are you ready for that, to sit down with these families and talk to them? Because wills and probating a will is a big part of the probate judge.
I believe that I am. I'm familiar with wills and probate administration, and I know it's not going to be an easy task as far as emotionally when you're dealing with distraught people, but I care enough, and I want to be there to help them. So, yes, I realize it's going to be difficult at times, but I'm willing to do that because I do want to help the members of this community.
Mr. Lowman, I'd like to ask you that same question. Being available, and I will use the comments that our current probate judge has said to me in the past, that she has been with a family on a Saturday or late in the evening that needed information, needed forms, needed to know what to do next. How available will you be for those families, and are you ready for that part of the position?
Well, Brian, I think that speaks to the full-time question that you asked a little while ago. And I think, once again, when you commit yourself full-time to this, you're committing yourself to this full-time 7 days a week, any given time. Probate judge is tasked with several different areas that can't be predicted. you can't just know all the time when these things are going to happen. I've been in probate courts with clients on Christmas Eve trying to address situations. I've been in situations where my clients have called me on weekends to address matters, called me on almost midnight to address matters with their loved ones. So I'm fully aware of the extent and the involvement that it takes to run this office. And yes, I certainly will be available at any time to address the needs of the family in any capacity.
Okay, this is going to be a little different for all of you, but this will be my final question, and we'll do our closing statements. And you can respond. Do you want to respond to what he? Okay. Mr. Chastain, you can respond to what Mr. Lowman said.
Well, not directly to what Andrew has said, but to put it kind of in perspective from my experience, I have been there with families when they've said farewell to loved ones, nursing home, hospitals, funeral homes. You can ask my wife. I've been, as chaplain of the sheriff's office, I've been called at 2 or 3 in the morning to go sit with folks that's lost a loved one. I know how to deal with that as a pastor. I've done it for 20 some odd years now. It is a tough situation. It is a tough time. We don't always have the right answer, but you need somebody that you can sit there, and if it's nothing else but just to cry on their shoulder, then that's what I've been there for. I see this as being no different than that as probate judge. If I'm called out in the middle of the night or Saturday, I have no problem with that, and that's part of, like Andrew said, part of being 100% committed to this position.
Would you like to, Mr. Teague, respond to the question?
Thank you. I believe, regardless of who is elected your probate judge, I know these other 3 individuals, you're going to have a compassionate probate judge. In my position that I currently hold, I represent a lot of people who are in very bad positions themselves. I've represented clients who had their mother or father murdered, who have lost a loved one and they need to probate a will, who were seriously injured in an accident and will never be the same after. So I believe regardless of who you elect, you're going to have a compassionate judge. And I'm not willing to say at this point that I would put anyone up here as incompassionate. I will say that while it is a very important part of the probate judge's job, it is a smaller part than most people realize. Last year, in 2015, the probate court here only probated or administered about 120 wills. So they have a lot of cases come through that are not directly related to a will or an estate. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, this next question, this is going to be our final question, and we'll have closing statements. And even on this question, if you'd like to respond, let me know. It will be different for everyone because you'll see. The state of Georgia, in the state of Georgia, you're required to be an attorney if the population is 96,000 or over. If your county is under 96,000 in population, you're not required to be an attorney to hold the position. That being said, how important do you think, Mr. Teague, it is to be an attorney, and what is your position on that? Should it be an attorney?
Thank you, Brian. Absolutely. Every county, as you said, with more than 96,000 people is required to have an attorney. Both Fannin and Pickens County now have a licensed attorney serving as their probate judge. In 2015, the probate court here heard over 1,200 criminal cases. Now, matters that dealt with estate or guardianship issues, that was about 250 or so odd cases. So it's over 80% of the cases that are coming in that are criminal, either traffic or misdemeanor cases. And one of the most difficult things that the judge is going to have to do is decide evidentiary hearings or evidentiary issues and determine what evidence should be let in, what evidence should be kept out, and how to weigh it once it gets in. They're going to have to look at case law that may be brought up. And it's very difficult to read some case law. The law is not black and white. If it was, you wouldn't have to go to school for 3 years and pass one of the most difficult tests in the country to go into the probate court and practice. And I believe that the probate judge should be at least as qualified as the attorneys that appear before them. I don't think it makes any sense to pay your attorney $5,000 to go in and represent you and have someone who doesn't share the same qualifications or hasn't been to law school make the decisions on your case.
Thank you. Mr. Lowman, you have the same 2 minutes. Do you need me to repeat that?
No, Brian, as Mr. Teague pointed out, Pickens County and Fannin County both recently appointed attorneys to be their probate court. And I think you're seeing that a lot more around the area, especially, obviously it's required in certain metro Atlantic counties, Cherokee County, for instance. But I think there's good reason for that in our circuit. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that people are understanding that you need someone that's in a situation who's been there, someone who can relate to those situations. In my practice, I don't know about Mr. Teague's, but I do know that it's becoming more and more of a situation where every probate case, it seems like, is contested. Everyone in this area seems to be arguing, fighting. If there's a vacuum cleaner to fight over, we're fighting over it. And so the more you get into these contested situations, the further and the stickier that a case gets, the more the law is that much more important. And you've got to have someone with that foundation. You've got to have someone that's been there before, that knows how to apply that law, that knows where to go to see how to apply that law. And I think absolutely, because of the direction that we're heading here, that we absolutely need an attorney as the probate judge.
Now, before we go on, because the two of you are not attorneys, if it's agreeable with all four, would you, two of you, like to respond to theirs before I ask your question? You understand where I'm going with that? I'm going to ask you a different question. So would you like to respond to what they said before I ask your question? Okay. Go ahead. Are you okay with that? Okay.
Like I said a few minutes ago, I respect the education, the time commitment these gentlemen have put in to become an attorney. The question is, do I think it's necessary that it be an attorney here in Gilmer County, or it's important to be an attorney here in Gilmer County? Obviously, the state of Georgia does not think it's necessary that it be an attorney because of the 96,000 population. We've been told several times that Pickens County and Fannin County both have elected attorneys the last two elections. Pickens County 4 years ago ran two attorneys against each other, so by default we had an attorney elected in Pickens County. Fannin County was, I think she was an employee out of the probate office against an attorney. What I understand is he barely beat her in that election. If you look at the other counties, Murray, Dawson, Union, Towns, Raven, none of those have attorneys to be their probate judge. If you look over the history of Gilmer County, since I was born, Mr. Bramlett, Margaret Evans, and now Judge Mullins, none of those have been an attorney. I realize it's complicated. I realize that there's going to be some learning that's going to have to be done. But to be an attorney, I don't think is a necessary thing to be. And actually, I think it puts me at a little bit of an advantage, and Susan as well, because I wasn't trained or educated to defend one side or the other. So as being judge, I could be partial in ruling down the middle. So
I want to be, go ahead, Mr. Lowman, you want to respond to that? Because I want to be very clear on this question. It's a very big question that I hear a lot within the community, and I think all of you do. So we can take all the time we want and work on this. Mr. Lowman?
I just wanted to point out a couple of things as far as the past judges that we've had. And Mr. Chastain's correct that the past couple of judges that we've had have not been attorneys. However, I think it's important to look at where they were at when they became judge. Margaret Evans was 16 when she started working in the probate court. She became judge about 8 years later when she was appointed. Judge Mullins had been working in that office for almost 13 years when she was appointed as the judge. The biggest thing to recognize there is experience. Experience is key to operating this office like it needs to be operated. And as far as being in an impartial position because you've not represented clients before, I think representing clients puts you in a position where you can be even that much more of an impartial position because you understand the importance of looking at both sides. You understand how serious it is to make sure that you consider each side of the opportunity, because if you've been there like I have, you've seen what it can feel like to be representing an individual who feels like they have no hope, that everyone else in the court is looking against them. So each side does have to be considered, and I've been there on both sides, and so I absolutely know how important it is to consider both sides.
Go ahead, Mr. Teague.
Thank you. And I'll respond directly to the issue of being impartial. You know, I have experience in private practice defending clients. I have experience in two judges' chambers looking at two sides of an issue and saying, well, how do you decide here if it's a close call? What do you look at? Oh, where do you go from here? I've had experience in the U.S. Attorney's Office preparing cases to be prosecuted, extremely complex federal cases, corruption charges against government officials. So I don't believe that I will have any issue being impartial with anyone. I also believe another benefit that an attorney will bring to that position is I think we'll be able to clear up some of the backlog that our Superior Court currently has. A lot of the criminal cases that come in now are being transferred, and they'll transfer up to Superior Court where they clog up the case there, clog up the caseload, and they're misdemeanor cases that could be handled in a probate court, but most attorneys are not willing to try a case in front of a non-attorney judge. And that's across the board regardless where you're at. Judge Mullen has been a great judge. Judge Evans was before that. But if you go to almost any circuit and ask an attorney if they are willing to try their case in front of a non-attorney judge, even if it's a case they might try in front of a judge who was a practicing attorney before, they won't.
Ms. Keener, let's get you in here. We've not heard from you on this. So let's go back to, you're welcome to respond, but let's go back to the original, and it basically, Mr. Chastain, you answered the question I want. The importance of being a judge versus not being a judge, and where do you stand on that, and how important is that to do the job?
You mean the attorney?
Yeah, the attorney. The importance to be an attorney, I apologize, the importance to be an attorney or not be an attorney, and can a non-attorney be effective enough to do the job? And go ahead.
I believe that a non-attorney can. I think that having experience in the legal field, or your experience, your education, I have got that background as far as criminal law and lots of work experience as a legal assistant, both civil and criminal law. I don't believe that you make a judge just because you have a law degree, because I've seen many people that have law degrees that, no, I just, I don't think that is, I don't think that's a qualification that is necessary. I believe I'm competent enough to do the job. I've had enough training in legal research, title research. I'm familiar in real estate law. And I frankly, I don't believe that it takes a person with a law degree to sit as probate judge.
Okay, we're going to get to closing statements, but first, anything else on this? Because I will tell you, for me, it's probably the number one question I hear, and it's not pro or con, it's just it's discussed. So if anybody else has anything else to say on that, and if you say something, I got to let them say something, but we're going to wrap it up. 1 minute, and then anybody else, and then we're going to close.
And I'm sorry, Paul, I haven't been paying any attention to your yellow and red.
I understand.
To follow up on that, when I first decided that I was going to seek this position, this office, I actually visited with a probate judge that's currently serving that is an attorney. And when I sat down and spoke with them, I said, give me the advantage over me as an attorney to be the probate judge. And he kind of looked and said, well, I was educated and practiced law for years, but when I became a judge, I didn't know how to be a judge. I had to go to the 40 hours to learn how to do that. And he said, the only advantage that I see from the attorney standpoint is I could probably look the law up quicker and find it quicker by research, which is probably true because they do it for a living. So, but that's the only advantage he saw as being the attorney in the position of the probate judge.
Good? Okay. All right. Hope I've given everybody every opportunity to answer every question. So if there's anything tonight that you didn't feel you get an opportunity, speak now. Okay, we're going to go to our closing statements, and at this time, we're going to start with Susan Keener. I'm sorry, you opened, so you're number one? Okay.
All right, I want to thank you all.
I apologize. 2-minute closing statements. Mr. Lowman, go ahead.
All right, I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. I'm sure there's a lot of issues that many of you may still be wanting to ask that you haven't gotten to touch on. If that's the case, feel free to seek me out, ask me. I'd love to talk more with you about it. One thing I'd like for you to think about, though, as we've discussed a lot about experience tonight, and I really believe that experience is key in this race. I was speaking with Mr. McClellan earlier tonight about traveling. I'd like you to think about your traveling. When you go on an overseas trip, what's the first thing you do? You start to plan for your plane tickets. When you look for a plane ticket, think about if you were looking for a plane ticket, you also got to pick the pilot at the same time. Now think about if some of those pilots have been flying for many years. Think about if one of the pilots that you got to pick hadn't ever flown before, but was going to learn how to fly before you got on that plane. I don't know about you, but I'm going to pick the pilot that's been flying for a while. And I'm not saying that as a probate judge we're flying planes, but what I will tell you is that we do have the citizen's life and liberty in our hands. And it's important. This is important stuff that this court handles. And I think that experience is absolute must. I've been practicing probate law now for a long time. It's something that means a lot to me, and it's important to me. And I would like to be your probate judge, and I'd like for you to vote for me on May 24th.
Mr. Teague, 2 minutes.
Thank you. In 2015, our Gilmer County Probate Court heard over 1,300 criminal cases, 250 estate and guardianship matters, and probated or administered 110 plus wills. Those are very serious issues, each and every one that comes in front of the probate court. And experience matters. You know, we talked about the fact that every county with more than 96,000 people has a licensed attorney as their probate judge. The state requires it. They don't hear different cases. They don't hear different matters. They hear the exact same thing. Fannin and Pickens, they both have a licensed attorney. And I don't believe that the due process you receive when you go to the probate court should be based off the county you live in and whether or not it's got 96,000 people. Everybody in Gilmer County deserves the same level of due process that everybody in Cobb County or Fannin County or Pickens County deserves. You want to have a judge who's at least as qualified as the attorney who's going into court with you. You don't want a judge who's going to have to learn the law on their first day in office or who's going to be looking up the law because they're not really sure while they're listening to your case when it's something simple. You want to have a judge who's been there, who's been on the other side of the bench, who's argued that, who knows it, and who can help you. Because compassion isn't always just about being able to listen, but it's being able to do something when you do listen. Experience matters, and I will use my experience in my private practice, in the U.S. Attorney's Office, and in 2 judges' chambers for the people of Gilmer County. I will use my experience to make sure you have the most fair, most efficient court possible, and I will treat everyone the same regardless of who they are or where they're from. I'm asking for your vote on May 24th. Thank you.
Mr. Chastain, 2 minutes to close.
Brian, we want to thank you and those of you that's here tonight. We appreciate you spending the time being here. This has been absolutely great, and I love community involvement. I appreciate you spending the time with us tonight to listen to the different views that we have up here for probate. I will say that I commend these 3 for stepping out. This is a big step for a lot of us to do this, and I appreciate them being willing to serve our community. Pretty simple. When asked why I even considered being or seeking this office, the first thing that came to my mind was because I'm invested here. I love this community. Most of y'all I've been in church with. You know me. Been in business in the county for years. I've run a business, like I said, budgeted, dealing with people, dealing with employees, dealing with the public. And Mr. Teague is right. Experience does matter, and I have that experience. And I'm asking you and everybody that's watching out there to vote for me on May the 24th to be your next probate judge. I can honestly say, and it's been said here tonight about treating you fairly, I don't think any of us would treat you unfairly. I don't think any of us is going to apply the law any different than the rest of us. We've all got to apply it the same way. So I would ask for your vote. remember me on May the 24th. Vote for me. If you got any questions, come to me and ask me. I'd love to sit down and talk with you about that. But most of all, I would ask that you would pray for us, all of us, because whoever gets the position as our next probate judge will have a tremendous responsibility to you as the citizens of this community, and we want to do the very best we can for you. Thank you.
Ms. Keener, 2 minutes to close.
Thank you, Brian. I want to be your next probate judge because I care. I care about this community, and I feel that with my experience, my work history, for over 30 years, I've been to school. As far as criminal justice, I've taken a paralegal course, but I've worked in the field of law, so I'm very familiar with the law. And in saying that, I'm not minimizing the importance of an attorney being in this position as probate judge, or the fact that they have more knowledge, but I don't believe that law degree, because attorneys they can specialize in different fields. So it doesn't necessarily mean that because they have a law degree that they're going to be, that they're going to specialize in probate court, or that they're the only ones that can read case law. They're the only ones who can do research or apply applicable laws to DUIs, to misdemeanor traffic offenses. I believe that I'm confident enough to do this job, and I know that I'm resourceful, and I'm capable of doing the research. And again, I'm committed. I'll be committed as a full-time judge, and I would appreciate your vote on May 24th. And again, if you have any questions or suggestions as far as what you've seen in the probate court that you're not happy with, or you think you would like to see change within, my power and within the law and the duties and responsibilities that coincide with the probate court that I could officially, help you with, please let me know. I'm available 24/7 and will be. Thank you.
Candidates from the Tea Party of Gilmer County and FetcherNews.com, we thank you for your willingness to serve, and our only goal is to get the voters the most information. So thank you. Folks, let's hear it for these 4 candidates. Now, one thing we and if I'm wrong, point this out. I know you'll love to do that. One thing I will want to say, we've heard the word conflict multiple times tonight. There's one thing all 4 of them will have a conflict with. There's some family somewhere, and they're all from here. So all 4 of them can't run away, for they'll see some family somewhere through the course. But thank you very much. Could you please stick around for a group photo? Any of the Tea Party board that wants to get together, get a photo with the candidates, or at least let's get the candidates together. Also, if you're looking for information, let me run a couple things by you. April 26th is the last day to register to vote. Don't forget that. May 24th is Election Day. Early voting starts May 2nd. And also Saturday voting is May 14th. Now, this has been recorded. We'll have it on FetcherNews.com so you can share with everybody. If you go to FetcherNews.com, there's a button at the top that says Election 2016. So you can get all your election information there. Quick plug before I give this back over to Mr. Oglesby. We have the 51st District State Senate forum or debate coming up. Is that correct? And then we have, you're going to announce all that. You got the dates and everything memorized? You don't have any of that?
Sure, I have them.
Yeah, you get ready? Last but not least, FetcherNews.com. We do a live show from 8 to 10. I get a little opinionated. It comes with a warning, okay? But between 8 to 10, Monday through Friday, you go to FetcherNews.com, click on there. And at 10 o'clock, we do a 1-hour live newscast. Kevin Hensley does the morning report. It's a live newscast for an hour. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Let's everybody stick around for a picture. If you'd like to close.